Hello and welcome to the Fluid Sim video series as part of this YouTube channel. So we're going to look at a couple of different videos throughout the series, really on pneumatics and electro-pneumatics. And today I'm just going to start with a basic pneumatic sequence. So something that everyone that will be starting out in pneumatics will be starting out in, really just a basic cylinder sequence. Okay, and what I've got is Fluid Sim P opened. Okay, so P for pneumatics. Very important that if you're doing a pneumatic circuit, you use the pneumatics Fluid Sim rather, and don't use the hydraulics, because it won't simulate properly for you. So just make sure that's always really the first starting point, to make sure you're in the P. Then we just open the new document here, and it gives us a space where we can create our circuit from. You'll see on the left hand side here, common files are just into my files. You get a bit more of a selection. As we look, you have pneumatics, then you can have the electrical controls, some digital controls for PLC link up, and then some miscellaneous, really just a text box in there. So at the moment we're just going to look purely pneumatic. So we're just going to really focus in on these groupings here. Now I'm using the student version of Fluid Sim, so it doesn't have the full suite of kind of components, but it's got enough for me to work away with here. So the sequence I'm going to do, and I'm actually just going to drop in the text box here and just type in the sequence that we're going to cover. Very simply, we're going to have two double acting cylinders. We're going to do A plus, B plus, A minus, and then B minus. Okay, so that's the sequence I'm looking to do. What we'll always do is start with a supply element. So we'll start with a compressor, and then we normally put, just good habits, put the air service unit there down below. Okay, if you click into it, you can set adjust your pressure. Now with the student version, you can only change this adjustment during the simulation mode, so when you actually run the simulation. With the kind of full version, you'll be able to just tap in straight away and configure as freely. Then our actuators, we're going to pop up to double acting cylinders, bring them down just a little bit, try and keep them lined up. And really good habit is to neatness and kind of hierarchy and kind of layered control in Fluid Sim is important. So you'll see you'll have your cylinders at the top. If we double click in there, we can do some actuating labels. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some roller switches to sense the retracted A0 position and the extended A1 position. And because it says here that our cylinder is 0 to 100 millimeters stroke length, we're just going to have it 0, 0 to put our first sensor, and then 100, 100. Just make sure, yeah, 100, 100 for our last one. And what I like to do is I like to just pull that rule over. You'll see if you pull it over, it just sits on the out, so you can kind of see the roller switch hitting off it. It makes it a little bit more realistic. I suppose if you had it on this side, you'd nearly be using kind of magnetic proximity switches sitting on the cylinder housing itself. And we're going to have the same on the B side, so B0 and B1, and we'll go 0, 0 and 100, 100. Really what these positions mean is where, if you know the length of the roller switch, so the roller switch could maybe be 2 or 3 millimeters long, you could start at the 0 point and it could end, let's say, 3 millimeters in, and then down below it could be like 97 and 100. But really it's not that important to specify those measurements for a simulation purpose. And again, I can just pull that down. Then what I would like to do is going to start using my valves. So really the first thing you need to always do is make sure that you have a directional control valve controlling each cylinder independently. Okay, and we're going to put in a 5-2 pneumatically operated, pneumatically returned impulse valve. Okay, so we always have for each double acting cylinder, we always have its own direction control valve controlling it. Okay, and then these two will be indirectly controlled, so pilot operated on either side by, you know, the roller switches and start buttons and any other kind of inputs that we're using. So always really good habit to get this set up straight away. Put port 4 into the back side of the cylinder and port 2 into the front side. This will start in the retracted position. If you wanted to start it in the fully extended position, you could swap them two around. Number ones all go back to the air supply. Lovely. So then the next thing really is how the sequence is going to operate is we're going to have a start button, start push button, and then we're going to have a series of roller switches. Okay, and you can kind of see all my switches are kind of staying on the one layer here, or the one level, and I have, you know, my control valves for the cylinders in one level, all my cylinders at one level again, so you'll see the kind of organization flowing through. Now what I got to do is I've got to link these roller switches to these switches up here, so as the cylinder moves it's going to activate these for me. So you can do that by double clicking and adding a label. So we'll call this one A0, call this one A1, we'll call this one B0, and I need another one for B1. And you'll see, because now that they're linked, we get a nice little box around them, so that lets us know that they're all linked up properly, and that the labels are that we've typed them in the exact same, that there's no kind of mistakes there. And also you'll see the B0, because the cylinder is retracted, you can see that the kind of hatch line beside it is showing it that we're starting normally, we're starting activated. So this valve is starting activated, so you can see it switched over as opposed to this one. Okay, so that's showing it in its starting position because it's starting as activated. We can see that it's allowing air to flow through, but it's still a normally closed valve, like this one here. It's just starting in the activated position. That's what those hatch lines mean. Then what we got to do is we got to put together a sequence. Okay, so what we want to happen is, well, we want the start button to start our sequence. Okay, so there's going to be a level of control that we only want this to start once the start button has been activated, and also once the sequence has finished. Okay, now a little hint to get through this. We can follow the sequence. So when A goes plus, when A extends, it's going to hit A1. So that's going to be the input to send B out. So A1 is going to be the input to send B out. So to send B out, it needs to be connected in here. Then when B goes out, it hits B1, and that's going to be the input to send A back. So you're going to have B1 is going to be on the side to send A back. Then when A comes back, it hits A0, and that should be on the side to send B back. And then finally when B comes back, it will hit B0, and that will help you start your sequence again. So that'll loop it back around so that your sequence is repeatable. And what I want to do is, you know, I can connect these up in series. So ultimately I'm giving myself an AND scenario here, so that these two events need to happen before we start off. And then finally, last thing to do will be to connect everything up, keep all our lines nice and straight, everything neat, and we've kind of good organization there. All our roller switches are leveled up. We've our valves, it's controlling our double acting cylinders, it's leveled up. We've our double acting cylinders, we've our roller positions in the correct kind of location, and we have our start button there. And you know, you can put a little text box there to say start as well. And that really is your sequence. And what you could have done here is use an AND gate as well, if you didn't want to just pipe them directly into each other. We'll kind of look at that in another video to simulate it. very straightforward. You go up here to press play. If there's any errors, or maybe if you've left some ports empty that haven't been connected up, it would pop up an error. Or if you had some lines that were kind of cluttered over on top of each other, it would give you an error. So we'll see it starts, cylinders start retracted. And what I need to do is I need to push the push button, and you'll see it goes through the sequence. A goes first, then B goes first, then A comes back, and then B comes back. And you can see all that happening, and you can see the flow of air when there's high pressures, where there's dark lines, and where there's exhausting air. That's the blue lines. And in other videos we'll look at kind of how to slow this system down so we can really see the sequence happening, adding in our flow controllers. But that is just a very basic system, basic sequence for pneumatics, purely pneumatics. It shows you how to put together the components and how to link them all up. Very straightforward. Again, using the library and bringing in the sort of standard valves that we have. If you do need to configure any valves, you can double click onto them and you can change them and customize them. Now in the student version you can't do that, but in the full suite you can. With any valve you can double click in, change the positions, orientation, how they're operated, so you can really kind of customize your own valves. But that's all we need for this video, so I hope you found it helpful.